your father, Sheldon Adelson, have spoken several times. I believe last time your dad was here, he went to a fundraiser with Sheldon, but Mr. Adelson hasn't contributed the total financial backing that he said he would earlier in the year. He said he wanted to put $100 million forward for the Republican nominee. Where's the relationship there? Is that going to happen between now and November?
Well, I think you'd have to ask Sheldon. I think the relationship is really good. I spent some time with him at the RNC convention, back in, whenever that was now. It feels like an eternity in politics. So, no, the relationship is good. We continue to have a dialogue. I think he's been very helpful, and, look forward to hopefully continuing that relationship.
Mm-hmm. Were you surprised that Jim Murren, the MGM CEO, who's a Republican, came out and endorsed Hillary Clinton?
No, listen, I think a lot of establishment types, they're comfortable with the system as is. They know that my father's going to go in there and break up that system. And, again, that goes from politicians who've gotten very comfortable and very rich, and the lobbyists that surround them and the political elite that surround them, knowing that the system is rigged, knowing that the system is bought and paid for. They don't want change to that because they know they can influence it, they can manipulate it, and they know that my father's a disruptor. They know that he's going to go in there, he's going to break up that system, and breaking up that system is going to be a big benefit to the rest of this country, the people that don't have millions of dollars to contribute to these kind of things. They know that he's going to change that game. So I think when you see some of the sort of party line strife and those guys, they know that their game is over, and it should be, because those people have gotten very rich off of the livelihoods of the American people, and the American people haven't seen that same benefit. So I think it's time to shake up that system, and I don't think anyone, that's a partisan issue. That's not something that's only the Democrats do that, or only I think both sides have done that and taken advantage of the system, created problems that aren't really problems so that they could miraculously solve them later. So my father's a disruptor. He's going to go in there and he's going to shake that up, and he's going to get things streamlined again.
Mm-hmm. On that, you mentioned moderate Republicans. The governor of this state, Ryan Sandoval, one of our senators, Dean Heller, who's also a Republican, they've both been iffy. They've either walked back or not endorsed your father for president despite being lifelong Republicans. They haven't said they're going to vote for Hillary Clinton, but they have a lot of issues, wrapping their arms around his candidacy. Is the campaign reaching out? Do you need
we have a lot of outreach, and but our primary outreach is not to politicians, not to people who've made their living as politicians. Again, a lot of those people that I've seen on both sides, they're there trying to protect the establishment that they've created, the very comfortable lives that they've created. There's a reason the zip codes around Washington, D.C. Are the richest in the country. Most of those people haven't created jobs. They just sit there and try to fix problems that they've created for themselves. So, I think when I look at a lot of the political elite, they don't want someone to change that system. They've spent a lot of time creating that system and becoming a part of it. So, there is a lot of outreach, but our primary outreach is honestly to the American people, to the people who've seen their jobs shipped abroad, to the people who've seen their kids get terrible educations. Number 30 in education as a country. We spend more than any country in the nation. We're number 30 behind a long list of third world countries. You know what? If we educated our kids, we take that waste, fraud, and abuse that's so prevalent in D.C., we take that money and put it into our education system. We take that money and take care of our vets coming over from these wars. We rebuild our military. We rebuild our infrastructure, which is crumbling. You do that, that'd be pretty amazing, but that's not what's going to happen with career politicians. It doesn't behoove them to do that.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about education quickly.
Yeah.
I believe you've said in interviews that student loan debt is a huge concern for millennials. The Trump campaign, yourself and your siblings are trying to reach out to millennials. What is your father's plan for figuring out student loan debt? There's nothing on his website.
Well, we're working on that. That'll be announced in the coming weeks. So I don't want to jump the shark on those issues, but it is a real problem. You have, Hillary Clinton, who's speaking at universities across the country for hundreds of thousands of dollars at a time. She's incentivized to make sure that those dollars are still there. Those universities, continue to jack up tuition prices. People continue to get educations they can't afford. They come out of schools with debt that's the equivalent of a house that their parents are living in. It doesn't work. It's not sustainable. We have to fix that system, and along with our national debt. I said it yesterday, actually. And someone asked in a sort of a little Twitter town hall that I was doing. And the long-term problem is obviously our national debt because it's building and doubling and doubling. If we ran our household, if I ran my house like we run our government, I'd be living on the street in weeks. It doesn't work. It's not sustainable. And it's really the same issue in the short term for student loan debt. It's something that's going to hamper these young people and their ability to function properly in their lives. So we do have to address it because it is a serious problem.
Mm-hmm. And your father addressed this in 2015 before Iowa, a lifetime ago, essentially in the political season. And his answer to this was basically, we need more jobs, we need stronger jobs, we need higher.
100%. And by the way, not everyone needs to go to college. There's a lot of great, technical jobs that you don't necessarily need to go to college for, or you go to 2-year schools for. There's a lot of those jobs. We want to bring those jobs back to this country. If you look at, what those jobs could do for the people who, by the way, who you so often blindly vote Democratic in the inner cities in this country, you put jobs there, guess what? You could actually do something. Then those kids could get educations. They get out of this cycle of poverty that's been created by left-wing policies in the inner cities of this country. That's what we're looking to do. So, his message has always been from day one about bringing jobs back to this country, but it goes much more than that. It's technical jobs, it's vocational jobs, and it's bringing those companies who've gone abroad because of our crazy taxation policies that have been pushed abroad to places where they don't have to pay anything. Incentivize them to come back. The money that they're spending having workers in other countries, employ those people here. Bring those dollars back into this country and put it into our communities. That makes total sense. That's a universal solution for so many of our problems. So he's been saying that from day one. And it's part and parcel. It's a separate issue, but it's part and parcel to this. If people have jobs, if they don't have that kind of debt, if they can function comfortably, they can have a good family construct, which has disappeared in this country. Those are all things that would prevent so many of the problems you see in youth these days.
And what I wanted to ask was that, his focus has always been, as you said, been from day one on the economy, on making more jobs. But is there any other things, and you did say that a plan's coming out in the next couple of weeks about student loan debt and free financing, but is there anything else that President Trump would do to fix that? Does this include, breaking up big student loan lenders?
Well, I think you got to prevent academia from sort of running rampant. You see, the construction, jobs keeps going up. Teachers keep getting, tenure and, ridiculous salaries. They're selling you, they're writing a textbook and they're selling it to the kids or $400 for a textbook again. It's a problem that's been perpetrated time and time again. Hillary Clinton talks about education. Meanwhile, she's more than happy to take $500,000 at a clip to speak at schools all across the country, that are funded publicly. It's a broken system, and politicians have been in on the take. So I think we have to revamp a lot of that. I'll let him get into the details of the policy, and again, I don't want to go too far there before he announces it, but it's a real problem that we face, and it's an important one because this next generation is going to be left in a much worse situation than any other generation before it, and that's not something that's acceptable. For me, certainly it's not acceptable. As a father of 5, I don't want to leave him with that kind of trouble.
Jumping to a completely different topic.
Sure.
One of the things that comes up in Congress almost every session is whether or not to ban online gaming. This is online poker that's been a big push by Mr. Adelson, by a lot of people here in Las Vegas. Has your father ever expressed an opinion on that, or what do you think?
I think you'd have to ask him on that. It's probably a little bit, beyond the details of, what I know about. But I think you'd have to ask him. He obviously, has a good gaming background and understands it better than I would.
Presumably he's anti-regulation, wouldn't that?
Oh, listen, we're generally speaking anti-regulation. I mean, I think regulation and over-regulation, and the bureaucracy that this government has produced is a major problem, and something that we're against. So we are about keeping government out of your daily life. Let the free market take over. So but I'd let you speak to him on the details of it.
Okay, and then just final question. Federal lands is a huge issue here in Nevada. The federal government owns 80% of the lands. I believe your dad told Field and Stream magazine back in February that he'd support basically status quo policy and not turning over lands to states. Has anything changed in between?
No, listen, it's a complicated issue, and I'm a big outdoorsman, I'm a big hunter, I'm a big shooter. I spoke up in Elko, during the primary season, and I think the states need to be more involved in the management of their lands. The problem that you have, and again, as an outdoorsman, the problem that you have oftentimes with the states want the lands and they want to be able to do whatever they want with it. So they could get those lands that are public lands for everyone to be able to use, and then they can just sell them off to make, to catch up on a budget that they didn't make this year because they can't run the same sort of deficits we can as a country. That doesn't work. You'd eliminate public lands in a matter of time for states that run themselves poorly. That doesn't work. Now, the states should be more involved in the management. They should be involved. The government and the governors should have a say in what happens in those lands. And they could even, oftentimes go back to states. It's less about ownership than what you do with it afterwards. You can't say, these are public lands, we're going to give them to the states, and the states are going to sell them all off to private people, never to be accessed for again by the general public to make up for a one-time budget miss. That doesn't work. It's not a sustainable solution for public lands. It's actually probably where we diverge a little bit from conservative dogma, which would be let the states do it, they can sell them off, and then, but again, as an outdoorsman, as someone who loves our national and federal lands and our state lands, those have to be always available to the public, and that's the underlying policy that's really there for us. They have to be available to the people that need them. Now, that doesn't mean you can't do some energy exploration safely and environmentally, That doesn't mean any of that, but they have to remain open to the public.
Yeah, and if I can ask one follow-up
Sure.
question. Cliven Bundy's in the news this week. His son Ammon is going through jury selection right now for the Mauer Refuge occupation in Oregon. Cliven Bundy is from Nevada. He lives about 60 miles northwest of here. Has your father ever opined on him and his issues bringing up with the federal government owning land?
You know what? I don't know. You'd have to ask my dad on that one.
Yeah. What about you?
Listen, again, there are a lot of cases. I mean, there's a lot of complexities to the issues. I mean, there's the notion of the leasing, there's the issues of overgrazing, there's the issue of cutting off, again, public access versus those lease rights. So it's a very complicated thing. And one land area and one area that's segmented off here could be very different than another piece of land. So I think you do have to look at it on a case-by-case basis.
Yeah. Do you think his response, taking up guns, bringing in people from all
I don't know that should be a response to anything, but I also understand a lot of the frustration in that community. So, like I said, it's not a simple answer.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.